right. Welcome everyone to Spirit Coffee Talk. I'm Ginette Biro, and with me is Elyse Richmond and Elyse Catherine, and we are the mediums and channelers of Avalon Spirit. And thank you so much for joining us today, where we just, we gather and we chat about the stuff going on. And really what we want to talk about is predictions that have come true and how this is really playing into the unfolding of essentially darkness, but also culminations this month. And this month we mean October, because October is a very transformative month with the planetary alignments, but also just everything going on. So we're in a power-packed month that Spirit was giving us insights about. It started back in about May, more insights in July, really preparing us to be grounded as possible as we really step into this, final phase of the year. So welcome.
Wow. What a way to start.
There you go.
Okay, I think honestly, like for our listeners too, it's sometimes we hear like certain things and then that's where we stop. And so like when we say like essentially into darkness, what do you mean?
So darkness essentially is, it's like now we're stepping into, and I am talking about this on my podcast too, is we're stepping into what I call the dark forest. And so it is a darkening of our journey. We're getting into the grit of the journey that we have been preparing for throughout the summer. And so there's going to be deeper revelations that come up that trigger us. There's going to be more exits and death, which we have seen. There's going to be more significant changes that make us feel as if we're in the dark in 3D, but really when we turn inward, we can find our light and shine that. But we have to consciously choose that, because again, there's going to be darkening of not only the season in the Northern Hemisphere, but just the energies as we move into the winter, into significant cycles of change, release, letting go, triggers, all of that. But I mean, all the work that people have been doing up until this point, we have to remember is going to help us hold steady in it. Mm-hmm. And so I really feel there's just, we can see it in the external narratives right now happening with war things, with weather things, with many different things. We're seeing a darkening of narratives, darkening of stories, darkening of 3D occurrences right now. And so this is kind of part of what is going to radically shift a lot of things from now until 2023.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think that as we move into, like what you said, into these radical shifts and cycles, one thing that we can remember is, like, as humans, as part of our evolution, is that we are made for this. Like, I think that sometimes we forget that, but like when we are moving into the season of fall and winter, we're in preparation for going inside. We're in preparation for the darkness. We're in preparation for that deep introspection, that we are actually made for this, right? And so we're a lot more equipped than we might give ourselves credit for. But that it doesn't have to be this like really like trudged, terrible thing. It can be a time of coming inside and going inside, introverted, and being able to like really take a deep dive inside to what we want before we're even able to plant the seeds into spring, right? Like this is a preparation time, and within the natural cyclical cycles of our weather, but even our body systems, that is how we're made. And so I want to just give people this a little bit of an encouragement while we say this, because although it can be really heavy and there's a lot of layers to this, you're prepared for it, and like you're built to be able to withstand what you are about or are in the middle of, or what we endure during some of those shadow times or the darker times. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you, Elyse? How are you feeling about everything?
Yeah, it's been, it's been an interesting month. For me, September, I always love September. I love fall. I love it. It always feels renewing to me, even though that's sometimes like fall can be more about letting go. This particular fall has not felt like that for me. It's been heavy. It's been a lot. There's been a lot to shift through globally, individually, and that's been challenging. And I think we've seen that for everybody. What's coming to mind and what I'm kind of feeling into as you guys are talking is, we hear this a lot in the spiritual community that, without darkness, light cannot exist, vice versa, right? You have to have that duality. And, from a human experience, I'm really kind of feeling into right now, when we go through these hard times, whatever it is, there is grief associated with it, right? Grief doesn't necessarily attach to death, but it obviously does. But we forget that grief attaches to multitude of things, right? Any significant change in our life, we can and likely do experience some level of grief. And I used to write a lot about this, but looking back now, my biggest grief experience was when my dad passed away. And looking back now on that experience, I, certainly still feel grief sometimes, but it's not a daily part of my experience. And yet I almost miss it because there was such a deep beauty in the grief, especially when I let myself feel it, because it brought me back home to myself. It brought me back home to aspects of myself that I didn't even know I was missing. And so I think I'm just really high. Like, I feel like I can't really fully breathe right now. There's just this deep sense of like grief, hard things, darkness can be scary, and it can feel so overwhelming for our human experience. And I think the more we're able to drop into it and remember that there is light and beauty within grief, and there is love, and there is these beautiful growth experiences, and it's really a cracking open and an opportunity to reconnect with ourselves in a new, probably bigger and different way. Mm-hmm. If we allow it to be that, right? And that's not an easy process. It's not.
No, of course not. Also not something that we talk about that much, right? Not something that, is really openly acknowledged. I really give you a lot of love and energy behind that statement, Elyse, and bringing that to light for us and for people. That's such a beautiful way of putting it, and very courageous of you.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think it really applies to what so many are experiencing right now, because like Spirit said, we would see a lot of people exiting. So if I'm talking grief specifically in death, which is our most common link to grief, there have been a lot of people that have been passing away. We've seen it in, again, great weather events happening right now, which we really send our love and hearts out to all of those having to deal with the hurricanes and the loss of their homes, the grief in that, but also the grief in people passing. And we can see this on world event scales, but I know I'm even noticing it within clients, within people that I know. Many people are choosing at this point to be exiting. And so we're really being confronted with grief in its most densest, most confronting form right now. And we're going to keep seeing this for a little bit, right? But I think one thing we have to try and remember as well, and not to take away from the process of grief, but the one beautiful part is that when souls depart this world, they go to somewhere so much more beautiful. Right? And so there is a loss that we have of them, but there is also a freedom and a rebirth that they're undergoing to somewhere new, right? Mm-hmm. And that's one beautiful thing to hang on to within this darkening that we're experiencing here in 3D. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the people left behind, right, that are the ones that I would say, it's like understanding it on a soul level. And I mean, gosh, for me personally, experiencing such severe grief over the last little while, and knowing, really knowing, working with clients and connecting people with loved ones who have crossed to the other side. That's what I do. But then experiencing the grief on a 3D level, on a human level, is something, it's just altogether different. So the compassion is there for the actual heartache and how much you just miss that human being. Like you just miss seeing their face or picking up the phone and talking to them, right? But then truly experiencing their energy or love from the other side, like truly like knowing that they're there and like feeling it and like experiencing that energy from a loved one on the other side is something that's so beautiful as well. So it just takes time, right? Like that doesn't happen right away. And you know, for some people it doesn't happen very easily, and you know, to open up to that. But I don't know, that was my tangent, just giving my compassion to people who are experiencing this grief right now is pretty intense. And I just don't take away from it on a human level, because it hurts like hell. It hurts like hell. So like giving my love to so many people who are experiencing so much loss right now, and that we don't want to come on here and make it more sad. We want to come on here and say, we're here with you, and it's okay to experience all the levels of it. Like Elyse said, that is more of a retrospective perspective, though, like really looking back, Elyse, and you sharing this beautiful, vulnerable experience about your grieving process. You know, I think that's really going to help people in the depths of it, because like right now, you know, if I step back from it, I can see I can see family members coming together that never came together before, or, you know, opening up and saying things that you never said before because you were holding it back for this reason or this reason. But like, there's like this new stage of presence for people to be seen in a grieving process. It's almost like you bear down to your most vulnerable expression of self, so that you can be seen in a way that maybe you never have been. And then all of a sudden it's like this new way of communicating with people and yourself, right? Like you said, but when you're in the depths of it, it's really difficult to see that that's a gift. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that we don't have to bypass it, as uncomfortable as it is, right? Because it's gritty. It permeates your entirety, right? Grief like that. And I think, like you were saying, Lisa, is like people coming together, that is the grace that we can find in those experiences, is how it can bond people. It can break down barriers. It can kind of shake us a little bit so that we can take a fresh new look at not only our interactions with other people, but where we are in our own life and what do we want moving forward, right? Like, as much as it is challenging, it's also an opportunity for a great reset within self, within family units.
Absolutely. Because otherwise, like there is a why behind it. And that's what I was going to say to you. There's an individual why for each and every person experiencing it, but there's a collective why, right? There's a universal why. There really is, because that's the beautiful play of our divine existence, right? Is this like universal why. So then going into that, then moving it into more of a collective perspective. Ginette, do you have any more maybe views from spirit on this big shift in this this ending of a cycle before kind of the new shift of existence? Do you have any clarity for anybody listening about this?
Yeah, so there's some pieces coming in, and some of them are that essentially this fall is about having us shake free or allow whatever is remaining to crumble. And sometimes those things that need to crumble right as we're at the end of our journey, nearing the end, like we were talking about before, are the hardest ones to let crumble, right? So we're going to feel sometimes this fall very confronted with, how could I possibly handle more? How could the world possibly handle more? This is crazy. But really what it is it's crumbling the bottom parts now. Even when you see a big building come down, the top comes down, it's a known, it's a given. But if you want to rebuild, you have to get rid of that bottom part too.
The original foundation.
Yeah. And so we're going to see those parts crumbling, which is the most confronting. So for some people, this fall is going to have very confronting things. But when we look at it that way, we can actually see like, okay, this is opportunities to really change my direction. Take all the things I've been prepping and planning, put them into place. And if you take kind of like this backpack thing, if we're doing this hike and we're going through the dark forest now, like we've been talking about, of this uphill climb, we have a backpack full of stuff. And what we're doing is we're clearing our space right now. We're getting through the dark forest so that we can lay out a spot, unpack all our stuff, set up camp, and it's going to be great, right?
Yeah.
But we have to have that will and grit to go through this darkness time right now. But we are so prepared. And so the universe, instead of just bringing down all these negatives, they want us to really focus on the perspective of the tools that we do have and how we can utilize those tools of either our tribe, those people that are around us, our grounding abilities, knowing what places bring us comfort and nurturement, how we can soothe our bodies when they feel overwhelmed, when to say no when we need a break, even from grieving. Sometimes we need a break from grieving, and that break might be watching Netflix and watching something funny or totally sci-fi, something that takes you out of that to recalibrate. And it's totally okay as we move through this fall to both grieve and have joy, right? To be in the unknown, but also know who you are, right? Like we said last time, those two things being true, two oppositional or two different things being true at the same time. Those are the pieces that we need to hang on to as we see the layers of things crumbling, changing, being rebuilt. And again, not all of it is happening in a linear fashion. Different parts are doing different parts at different times. So we may feel like different parts of us are grieving, thriving in a neutral space, calm but chaotic, all at the same time. So, yeah.
Yeah. You know, that is actually something that's come up quite a bit in like with clients and personally with family and such. It's like where it can feel, because we're in the depths of it, it can feel like we've gone backwards. And it's like, you know, I worked so hard and I was so confident in this and this and this area, but now I'm sitting way back here. Like, how did I fall back? And it's like, although you might feel that you fell back because it hurts right now, you're actually, you know, like you said, kind of like regrounding so that a new foundation can be built, but on a higher vibration. So although it feels like you're unearthed and you're all over the place and you're grieving and it's hard and you don't know where to go, you know, you're actually not far behind. We're moving forward, and to trust that, because it can sometimes not feel like that. And I don't know. I think that it's very, like I said before, sometimes it can be really hard to see that when you're in the depths of it. But there's like this like I feel like this real collective, like universal push and energetic, like support system that has revamped here. It's almost like on the other side, they knew we were going to start going through this, and there's like this new support system moved in, and they're like, okay, collective. Okay, light workers. Okay, people who are really feeling it. We got a whole new level of support system that came in with this wave. And so to trust that we are very deeply supported through this, whether you're thriving or whether you're feeling like you can't really, it's minute by minute. That's fair. You are deeply supported, and spirit has your back. You know, like there's like this new wave. That's what I saw yesterday. And it was a beautiful channel that came through from my guys, is that on a universal level, there's like this whole new wave of support that came from, you know, from spirit, which is really beautiful. And it's like when you can feel that, even just to know, okay, I'm supported in this. It's like where you really tune into it and can feel it. They're there. It's there. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How about you, Elyse? What else have you been getting? What has spirit been saying to you?
One of the big things that has been coming through is questioning, like, what is it that you desire on all different levels, be it through hardships, through grief, through in your life. Because as we are, you know, our sweet little human brains, when we see these things happening, when there's this hardship happening in the world, when there's a deep grief experience, our brains just want to keep us alive. So all we're doing is scanning and looking for the next awful thing that's going to happen to us or to the planet or to other people or our families or whatever. And that's just our mechanism to try and stay alive, right? That's just a deep primal, like, how can I be alive and, you know, survive whatever's happening or what's coming to me. And because of that, I think we forget to see the joy, like you were saying, Ginette, like see that the two things, I think I've been repeating this the last couple months, but like two things can be true at once. And I remember even through my grief experience, someone shared a quote with me that said, grief is just love with no place to go. And I have held on to that through whatever grief process I'm going through, whatever hard thing I'm feeling, because on the other side of it, or deeply connected into it, if we allow ourselves to see that, is love, is joy, is wonderful memories of an experience or a person or a time in our life, or whatever it is that we're experiencing and grieving or going through.
Yeah.
And so, coming back to what, my guides have been saying, it's really this, like, what do you desire to experience through this? What do you want for yourself? Because, as we've talked about many times on the show, we are not the ones to say, we are never going to be the ones to say, like, just bypass what you're feeling. Look on the positive always. Yeah. It's all good. It's not that, but it's, if I am experiencing hardship and, how can I be supported? Or, what I desire in this moment is to be supported in feeling it so that I can move through it and experience the joy and experience the love. Or, if it's an experience in your life, something that, you're experiencing a breakdown of something, asking for the support, desiring the support, or desiring the tools and the ways in which you can move through it for your highest good, because hardships are never going to stop, right? That's part of our human experience. And so, part of what I've really been reflecting on and one of my desires is, like, how can I hold myself through whatever is to come in the next however many months? How can I, be supported by spirit, be supported by the people in my life, and be supported by myself through those things? And even like a funny little thing like changing my hair color is a big thing for me. Yeah. So, it's a big thing for me that
you naturally got to change it up.
I change my hair color in times of wanting to, like, go inward and, like, support myself. And that's what I'm doing this afternoon. So it's like even silly little fluffy light things can be ways in which we support ourselves, get support from spirit. And I think too, one of the other things that has been kind of coming through is remembering that, like, maybe you're in a place where, we can look around the world and be like, oh my gosh, there's so many things happening. And that's very confronting. But maybe in your day-to-day life, you're not experiencing anything super intense or any big changes or grief experiences right now, but you're feeling the energy of that. And to remember that, like, sometimes we can feel the energy of something to come before it does happen. And that can be big, beautiful shifts. That can be hardships. That can be anything that is going to change our life. If we want to look at it in a positive or negative way, I don't really love those words, but for lack of a better word. And so remembering that, like, maybe you're feeling the anticipation of the thing. And it's maybe not, you look around your 3D life and you're like, I don't know, everything seems okay. But there's something in you that feels that, like, oh, but I don't know. That could be you're feeling collective energies. That could be, a multitude of things. But it could also be that you're feeling shifts coming towards you that feel really big, regardless of what they are. And to remember that that's okay. That's normal. Oftentimes we feel those things in anticipation before they land in our 3D reality, and to hold yourself through that too. Because for me, sometimes that feels the most confronting because it manifests as anxiety or a fear of something that I don't necessarily, like, I can't place on a tangible thing, but I feel it in my body. And so it creates this sense of panic in my body that then I have to hold space for and hold myself through. And so knowing that, like, even if in your life things aren't seen with your eyes yet, you might be feeling stuff that is to come. You might be feeling collective things. Either way, holding yourself through that in whatever way is best for you, because our spirits and our bodies don't necessarily know the difference of what's happening now versus what is to come versus what has already happened, right? All we can feel is in this moment. So just remembering that like it might look different for everybody, and how can you hold yourself through whatever you're feeling, whether it's manifesting in 3D or not.
So I gotta say, what's so cool is what we've been talking about and what you were just saying right now, Elyse. My guys are like, pull cards, pull cards, pull cards. I'm like, yeah, I'll pull cards. They're like, pull cards. So I did, and you would think I planted this, but it's funny. So the first one we have is hold your center, right? Which is essentially like hold your truth. We're being supported. There's beautiful angel in a doorway. Doorways are opening. We are supported, so we can hold our center. So like stand in your personal truth, right? And then reassurance of the golden light. This card talks all about exactly what we were saying, that spirit is here supporting us and guiding us, and things are unfolding. There are many ways they can unfold, but they're unfolding in the right direction. If they start to veer, spirit has our backs as long as we stay true to our frequency, stay true to our authenticity, stay true to our grief when we feel the grief, the joy when we feel the joy, and everything in between. We are so being supported. And so I thought this was so timely considering what we're talking about. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And golden light too, for just one more thing, is golden light frequency is a frequency of energy that is being made available on our planet now, as we've talked about before. So more and more people are opening up to that level of consciousness. That's the highest level of consciousness that we can embody on our planet right now. And so reassurance of this golden light frequency is a really big deal.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of light if we choose to find it, even while we are in the dark and the grief. And we can often find that within, even if it's a glimmer in a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're also saying to me on that note, we can find it in community. What is more a collective experience than grief and joy and love, right? Like what, if we look around us, every single person on this planet, regardless of, whether we are similar to them or very different from them, will experience grief, will experience love. And so, but I think with love, we tend to reach outward, and joy, we want to, we feel safer in sharing that potentially. But then on the flip side, with grief, it's like we kind of hold it close, and we feel like we need to not talk about it or not put it out there for fear of whether it's judgment or, beliefs put on us or feedback that isn't helpful for us. At the end of the day, though, it's something that we all collectively share. It's all an experience that we will go through to some degree or another. And I think those are the times when we feel like we need to go inward, but really we're experiencing something that every person on this planet will experience to some degree or another. That is when we go outward. That is when we also create community and connect with people, and in a safe way that works for you, obviously. Not that you have to, share all of your feels on the interwebs, but finding that community and that connection, because through community we find healing too. It's not just a solo endeavor, it's a community endeavor as well. And so, especially when we're looking at experiences that are challenging on an individual level, but also collectively, right? How else do we move forward without moving forward as a collective?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful. So any other kind of closing thoughts at all? Ladies, any other inspirations or things you feel coming down?
I really I feel like they keep on being like, this is pretty dark, Lisa. This is pretty dark to leave them on. So they're like, remind them that the end of a cycle is essentially what we're in. Like we're not only on our own personal cycles and like on our like yearly cycles and all of it. Not only that, but like intensified by like a massive global cycle, like to do with the whole, 2020 income. Like we are in the completion of one type of cycle. Okay. And so at the end of a cycle, it like the completion feels like a lot, but it is a massive, like congratulations to those who participated in this cyclical event is kind of the words. And at the end of a cycle, when we're finishing off something, quite often before we enter this new cycle, which I really feel is beginning, like I want to say like around February of 2023, that we will enjoy this new cycle. But when there's certain things that us as individuals and on a collective cannot bring with us. And we've been talking about this for the past year. Let's look at our bags, getting on the train. What are you bringing with us? Like that was the beginning. And some of those things were the easier things to really spot and see. And we've done like a good job. And that has been part of the grieving process, is letting go. You can still grieve something that has been a huge part of you that is now gone. And it's like, it hurt. It sucked. It wasn't great while it was there, but it really felt like a loss when you left it anyway. Like this is a part of like ending of a cycle, letting go of the things that you're not bringing with you into this new cycle. Okay. And so the things at the very end are the things that are holding on pretty tight. Like if you're doing a deep clean, the things that you really got to get at the very end that like you didn't really know were there, so the deep cleaning of it, are the things that have stuck on probably for life, are some of the programming or the belief systems or like the core beliefs or knowings or whatever that you've brought with you. So of course it's not going to feel easy to. This is the stuff at the end of this cycle. And so that's why it really feels like digging deep at this part, and we're like, whoa, like I'm not sure I can take much more. Spirit wants you to know that you'll never be given things that you cannot move through and that you're not ready to move through. And at this end of the cycle, it might feel like a lot because it's like that last push, but that coming into this new beginning, this really new supported growth that is really about to start in the new year. I want to say February. So like January 1, it'll be like, okay, now it's going to be great kind of thing. It's going to be a bit of a slow process, but we're really going to start to feel it coming February of this, like where we can start to breathe again and we can start to look retrospect and we can start to understand some of these things that have come through at the end of that cycle. So really to hold on and look and go in and hold your truth, right? Like those two cards. Go in and know that you're supported and to hold your true self, because although it feels like a lot, the biggest things are like prepping us for this new beautiful cycle that we're about to enter into collectively, individually. Yeah. So that's like a really strong message from Spirit.
Beautiful. I love it. I feel it. How about you, Elyse?
Yeah. And, you know, Elisa, on that note, as you were talking about that, it was kind of repeating in my mind of like asking for what you desire, even after the cycle ends, right? As things break down, it is also, while challenging, an opportunity to build anew. And so if you are being confronted with things that those, you know, really sticky things that are hanging on, like you were saying, I love that analogy. If you're moving through letting go of those things, also holding space for like, what do you want to replace it? What do you, and I don't, maybe the word replace is not the right word, but what do you want in the space of that?
Right.
Maybe it is space. Maybe it is someone new. Maybe it is a new experience. Maybe it is something within yourself. Holding space for that through the process of the letting go, because in the hard times, it can feel really good to dream about what can come next. Mm-hmm. And that can be sometimes your doorway to the joy of it, right? This is really hard, and look what is being cleared in my life so that I can fill it with new things that are maybe in more alignment or bring more joy or allow me to become a better, even better version of myself. So yeah, I love that. And I just also wanted to take a moment. Today in Canada is National Truth and Reconciliation Day. And so just to kind of hold space for that, because I you know, we didn't necessarily plan to talk about grief and hardships, but that is what a big part of what this day is about, is Indigenous communities within Canada, us as, you know, people who were not originally from this land, holding space for their grief and what has transpired and what can be seen as really dark times for those communities. So just to hold space and love for that as well today, because that's a big shifting in Canada, and I know in other places in the world as well. and something that we're all trying to learn and hold space for and shed more light on. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Thank you, Elyse.
Beautiful. Yeah, I agree. Well, on that note, everybody, thank you all so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate you guys big time. If you guys have some themes of topics you want us to explore, please do feel free to reach out at avalonspirit.com or in the comments below. Feel free, we do check them. So definitely do that. And as well, check out avalonspirit.com if you want to connect with us to further help you on your personal journey. And yeah, we will be back again next week. So thank you guys so much. Please do subscribe and share, and we'll see you all next week.